I'd like to now welcome the Director of our Revenue Reset, Roger Smith. Roger has the challenging task of driving our revenue determination process with the Australian Energy Regulator for the next 5 years. We're very keen to get your involvement as part of Roger's presentation, so when the time comes up, please dive into sharing your feedback when he asks. Over to you, Roger. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nicole, and good afternoon, Gladstone. I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands we meet upon and pay my respects to their ancestors, elders and knowledge holders. I've got a few slides to go through and then we're going to move on to audience participation. So we're going to get feedback from within the room, because part of the revenue determination process, a really important part of that, is getting feedback from our customers and understanding what's important to those customers, and then filtering that and putting that into our revenue proposal and our plans going forward. So the revenue determination process is a 2-year process. It's effectively a giant business case to develop the revenue requirements going forward to continue to deliver a safe, secure, reliable transmission network. It's really aimed at the shared network, those common assets that transport the bulk generation through to the end-use customers. And in terms of milestones, we kicked off the process in October 24. That was the formal commencement where we wrote to the AER, talked about the need to change their approach to how they were going to assess the revenue proposal that we were going to put in. Since then, we've gone through a couple of different milestones. We've lodged our expenditure forecasting methodology, which basically says how we're going to forecast our capital and operating expenditure requirements going forward. And the AER responded to the initial formal approach, and they've published their framework and approach paper, which that effectively sets out how the AER intend to assess those expenditure forecasts, and also talks to which incentive schemes may be applied going forward. So the most pressing milestone on there at the moment is September 25. Now that's not a formal requirement under the rules, but it is something that we did 5 years ago in our previous revenue determination. And we are building on that, and we're intending to publish a draft of our revenue proposal next month. So work is well underway to get us to that next milestone. Beyond that, we will be engaging on that, we'll be getting feedback from that, and we'll need to then shape the rest of the revenue proposal based on the information that we get in response to that draft. And we lodge our formal proposal in January 26. And just sort of passing through there then, the whole process completes in April 27 when the AER publish their final decision with some intermediary steps along the way. So engagement has been, as I said, a very important part of the whole process. We commenced in 2024, and we really sort of build on the business as usual engagement approach that we take. We have a customer panel, representatives of different customers, direct connected customers, who we use as a sounding board, and they challenge positions and give feedback and context into the decisions that we're making as a business. We worked with the customer panel back in 24, and we had a co-design workshop which also involved members of government departments, other stakeholders as well, just to work through how we were going to run the engagement process as part of that whole 2-year spanning process. As part of that, we set up a more targeted team. So the Revenue Proposal Reference Group is a subset of the customer panel, and they give us the opportunity to deep dive into particular engagement topics of interest. We've been meeting on a monthly basis, and we've been covering off a number of topics along the way. We've still got many more meetings to go before we conclude the process. But as part of our last process, I think it was recognised that we effectively engaged and we did a deep dive into those topics, understood the feedback and responded to that feedback. But the challenge was put down to how do we broaden the engagement to get more diverse views from other parties. As a response to that, what we did this year was we included a couple of extra questions in the Queensland Household Energy Survey. That went out in May, and we've recently been able to sort of look through the results from that information. That basically gives us the sentiment of households, what they see as important, and that should be our focus areas going forward. In addition to that, we leaned on our brothers and sisters at Energy Queensland. We reached out to, I think it was about 650 large commercial and industrial customers, both directly connected to Powerlink and those embedded within the distribution network. From that, we got a number, that was less of a sort of question posed, multiple choice answers given, more of a subjective opportunity for them to give discussion around what their future plans were, how we can incorporate those plans into our revenue proposal planning. That again has helped shape where we are leading with the revenue proposal. And obviously here today we're presenting to the Transmission Network Forum. So as I mentioned, we've got a draft of the revenue proposal to go out next month. And what we're going to do is just go through some of the key topics, talk about what we've heard so far, feedback received, and then we're going to sort of pass over with some questions to the audience here. So in terms of the engagement topics and where we've looked at the moment, we try to map them against the y-axis is the impact on the maximum allowed revenue. That's how much money we must recover in order to carry on doing the activities that we are required to do under the rules, and the ability to influence via the revenue determination process, or to turn that around, the level of prescription in the rules that we must follow. So, and we have the sweet spot, the engagement focus that we really need to use to guide our engagement through the RPRG and other forums. Now, many of the issues were repeat from the previous revenue determination process. There is not much new in regulation of transmission. So the same themes that were relevant 5 years ago are relevant now. In terms of the size of the bubbles, that talks about the level of interest in a particular subject. And this also resulted in a number of additional themes or expansion of previous topics. And I'm not going to go through all of these right now, but if you are interested in more information on this, we have published our engagement plan on the website that does go into more detail on what these aspects are and what we're doing in terms of engagement on those. But just to sort of pick on a couple of items there, one is the capital expenditure forecast. That's important because it has a material impact on what our revenue is, and it has a long-lasting effect on what our revenue is. And ultimately, that means what the impact on customers' prices are. Similarly, the operating expenditure is an immediate impact within the period. So whatever we spend in the period on operating expenditure needs to be recovered within the period. We've adopted the AER's base trend step methodology, and all three elements of that are important. The base is what was an efficient year of delivering the services. The trend is about how do we expect those services to change over time, usually as a result of output growth and input factors. And then if there's any particular step changes, and they're typically in response to new regulatory obligations. So seeing that capital expenditure and operating expenditure are really critical items in terms of the revenue proposal and what goes into the plan for the 5 years ahead, And reflecting back on Paul's presentation in terms of the increasing complexity, the increasing competition for supply of major plant items, the competition in the resources, the sort of scarce, skilled resources that we need to deliver the works. We've sort of seen that impact, and as a consequence of that, we're expecting to exceed our capital and operating expenditure allowances for the current period. We also expect those significant increases to carry forward into the next period. Now, given that all of that revenue is covered by customers, either directly connected to the network, the generally load customers, or embedded within distribution networks, so households and smaller businesses, we need to be really careful and mindful about the impacts of where we put the capital expenditure and the OPEX targets. So with that in mind, what we thought we'd get a bit of feedback from the room and try and get a sense of where the importance is in terms of the different focus areas for investments going forward. So if you could take out your phones and attempt to use the QR code. So who are you representing today and what best describes you? The reason we're asking this question is so that we can then look back and collate this feedback in line with the other feedback we've received from the other surveys and information we've received. Moving on then. So all we want to do is to rank the 10 statements there in order of long-term benefits of investing in the power system. So the most, number 1, to the least, number 10. So this is the fun bit, because you get to put a word or 3 words in to tell us where we should develop our long-term investment plans. So be constructive, be creative, but please be clean. I think what you can see there is there are 3 standout areas that were really important to households. Reliability of the system, affordability for all, and a climate resilient network, which I think speaks to the reliability of the system as well. But really sort of close runner-up there is that sort of build local skilled workforce and business opportunities. I think sort of the key takeaway from that is there is more support for issues impacting local communities. And that's what we're sort of leaning into, and that's what we're using to shape our revenue proposal going forward.